Dave Cooper Live, we connect the industry leaders in the architectural, engineering, and construction space with the people, the products, and the processes to help them build it better. Welcome, everybody. Imagine a building material that doesn't burn, doesn't mold, doesn't crack, and it's already being used on job sites across North America. Today on Dave Cooper Live, we're not talking about what's coming someday. We're showing you what's here right now. Joining us are Scott Jenkins, CEO and co-founder, and Shil Patel, Vice President, Business Development at ZS2 Technologies, a team that's turning magnesium cement into a game-changing solution for labor shortages, delays, material waste, and our climate crisis. With Gen 1 tech already certified and installed, and Gen 2 leveraging captured CO2 to deliver ultra-low carbon panels. This isn't the future of construction, it's the present. So buckle up. We're diving into a real solution that's building better, faster, and smarter. But before we hop into any or all of that, we got to give a big shout out to our friends at Cobalt Creed. They service builders, developers, prefab home builders, and manufacturers, allowing them to achieve the highest levels of comfort, indoor air quality, and low energy costs with their HVAC systems installed for their projects and their customers. Their approach is simple. By using their proprietary small duct high-velocity central heating and cooling system. If you want to learn more, go check them out at cobaltcreed.com. Now, a few words from these supporting members as well. CombiLift is the largest global manufacturer of multi-directional forklifts and straddle carriers, a leader in long load handling solutions, offering a free warehouse and site optimization design service. CombiLift helps companies of all sizes and from every industry maximize the capacity, safety, and efficiency of their warehouse and storage facilities. A big thank you to Paul Short and the team at CombiLift for helping us all to build it better. Visit them at combilift.com. Forward Solutions Group is successfully driving companies to succeed where others have failed. Are you looking to start a factory, optimize your existing factory, streamline your production, or take your team to the next level? Whatever your needs are, Forward has a solution for you. Reach out to Ben at forwardsolutionsgroup.com. All right, without further ado, let's bring on Scott and Shil to the Dave Cooper Live Show. How you doing, fellas?
Great. We're doing great. Thanks, Dave.
Hey, thank you for being here with us today. Love it, love it, love it. All right, so you guys are coming to us all the way from Canada. I don't hear the accent, though. I'm not hearing it.
You know, you don't hear the accent because we spent so much time in the United States building so many great projects. I know we're going to talk about those.
We are going to talk about it, but we're going to know as soon as you say project versus project, we got you. Hey, but before we get into this, guys, we want to know something about you. In fact, we want to know everything about you from the moment you were born to this very moment in time. Do not go anywhere but from the beginning at the hospital and tell us everything about you, where you're from, what you did prior to this, and then let's hop into it. Scott, let's go with you first, and then we'll jump into Shill. Floor is yours.
I'll start off real quick. Born and raised in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. That's where our head office is, with operations in the United States and throughout Canada. Grew up here, but lived overseas in both Southeast Asia and Australia for a while. Moved my family to Phoenix, Arizona for a little while when I was working for my predecessor company, Dirt Environmental Solutions, where I was the president. We were focused on prefab construction solutions for the office environment, and then moved into healthcare, built that company up, took it public in 2013. And then really at Dirt realized when we had so many healthcare clients, so many great healthcare clients in the United States and overseas, that we needed to look at fire resistant and more resilient materials that are also good for the environment. So my entire career, almost 30 years, has been in engineering, technology, construction, offsite construction companies. So this is a bit of a passion, to say the least. I'll let Shill go.
And for myself, born in Toronto, Ontario, and then moved over to Calgary, Alberta. Went to a technology school for oil and gas drafting, and then got into it for a couple of years until the recession hit, where Scott brought me on board for panelization of building products, and got to know the team grow into it from manufacturing to design, and then deployment of it on site, building it, to taking on a role here at the BD side of things.
Love it. Perfect. All right. So here we are. We have a new company. Obviously, taking a company public like Dirt is no easy task. So then you decide to jump into it again, Scott. I mean, honestly.
Yeah, you could say, what was I thinking? You know, we built a great company at Dirt in terms of offsite efficiencies, aesthetics, flexibility for our clients. But it was actually a senior team member at a huge healthcare provider in the US. I was at dinner in San Jose, California, and he challenged me to meet fire code, California fire code for the healthcare, and we couldn't do it. So we started to look as a team at different technologies out there, and that's how we discovered magnesium cement and magnesium precast cement products that are so highly fire resistant but yet lightweight. We never made it happen at Dirt. The founder of Dirt, mentor of mine, a guy named Mogan Smed, said, "No way you'll ever make it work. The aesthetics won't happen with the magnesium cement." He was right until now. We figured it out here at Zez too.
Well, and that's what we're going to hop into here today. And I'm super excited to have this conversation and really understand what's going on, because this product isn't in concept phase. It's actually being used. I'm assuming here in the United States as well as Canada. Anywhere else?
Yeah.
Do you want to kind of quick overview?
Just a quick overview. We are tackling a lot of the Canadian market. We were heavily focused on the West Coast regions and have been able to deploy out our building solutions using tech panels, which is going into the vertical of residential, commercial, mixed use, multifamily, and then just a Gen 1 sheeting product, which we're going to talk about as well today. And then into the US market, we are in California in Title 24, all the way to the Bahamas in high hurricane zones, and then Arctic zones all the way up in Canada.
Love it. All right, you guys are going to take us through a couple different presentations, showing us all about the product, what the product is, and then we're going to talk about one of the case studies. Everybody's heard about the Canadian fires up there.
Yeah,
I mean, right. You have a house that looks brand new after the fires rolled through. So this is really exciting stuff to talk about. Where would you guys like to start? Would you like me to put the first presentation up there?
Yeah, why don't we start there, and I'll kind of give an overview for your listeners and folks who might be watching this later on. So,
excellent.
You know, what's really driving our business, Dave, and you know, when you got started, you built such a great following now, and we're huge fans, and so it's great for us to be on the show finally. But for all your listeners, we've been trying for 3 years, but Dave's been rebuffing us until we actually built a real company. The truth is the world's changing now, and we need more climate resilient materials. So for us, I know we're going to talk about the chemistry of our Gen 2 products using CO2 as an input and carbon negative cement, which is possible. We're doing it now. But to start with, look at the wildfire situation, look at the tragedies in Los Angeles last year, where the world learned what we already knew. And that is that the insurance companies don't want to insure combustible building materials anymore. It's just too much of a challenge. Look at what happened in Lahaina over in Maui a couple of years ago. We just finished our first project in Maui just this year, but the fire raced down the mountainside and it accelerated when it hit the town. So it's all about life safety, first responders, allowing them to do their job. And we'll talk a little bit about the wildfires in Canada this year already. It's also about hurricanes, tornadoes. So we need to build stronger structures that are built for the future, but they also need to be economic. And so where we're focused is using one of the world's oldest building products, which is magnesium cement. So it's the mortar in the Great Wall of China. It was actually the mortar in the Brooklyn Bridge. But here's where I'm going to talk about the two big problems. Two big problems with magnesium cement versus traditional cement, traditional precast products, concrete. That is, the raw materials are predominantly in China, Russia, and North Korea. So for the American viewers, how do you feel about us so far? Probably not great. Second problem is it's a complex chemistry, and magnesium oxide, the core ingredient, is used a lot in other important industries like water treatment, agriculture, refractory, high temperature industrial purposes. So higher value things. Well, we've solved both challenges here at Zetis2 with a proprietary formula that's based on waste materials found here in North America. So that's the key. But this is the other problem with it. Our solutions are cheaper than what's coming out of Southeast Asia. And I know our construction clients don't like it when we bring their costs down.
No, they hate that. I mean, why would we want to bring costs down? I mean, can you bring milk and eggs down too?
We'll try.
Everything's suitor. Go ahead.
Go on.
Just to piggyback a little bit off what Scott was mentioning as well, is that the goal is for us to also be able to educate the market with our products through even our distribution partners. We have multiple partners throughout Canada and the United States that are already using our materials, educating the market, and be able to service it with vertical construction. And so having that as another asset for us is actually beneficial for each market as well, alongside of our testing and certifications.
Okay. So is it just the material, or are you taking a page out of Dirt's book where this is a panelized system?
So you nailed it. Absolutely nailed it. So both the sheathing, so what's proprietary to us is the precast magnesium cement products, and expanding actually kind of family of products. We've had some of the world's largest building products companies approach us to ask if our patented recipe could be used in whether it's exterior brick veneers or roofing products. And that's really exciting for us. But to start with, we've integrated the magnesium cement boards into a prefab panel, a la Dirt. Prefab, reduced labor, higher quality, coming out of factory. But the biggest thing for our partners, especially in the United States, especially on those large projects in California that are upcoming, is saving the labor costs on site. So it's speed and people. And that ultimately is really what's providing so many cost economies, if you will, for our partners.
Yep, agreed.
Is this exterior, interior? Are they fully enclosed, open panels? Walk me through what the construction of these panels is like.
So we specialize specifically in the exterior envelope, making it more thermally efficient, providing a package where we can reduce the amount of lumber or steel that goes into a package to get a better thermally efficient building overall. And so having done that in climate zone markets or even seismic zones where we can start to limit the amount of lumber that goes into them, just because of the testing programs that we have, is providing a more robust package for utility bills to come down and also more thermally efficient buildings overall.
Got it. And tell me though, why does the future of construction depend on combining materials with innovation? And that I get the offsite manufacturing part, right? That's where you're getting your labor savings and your time savings and your efficiencies. But walk us through a little bit about the materials you're using. What really makes it different than anything else that's been out there, other than the cost? And is this something that we need because everything is changing so fast?
Well, I think there's a few pieces to that comment and question there, Dave. And it really comes down to, we need more resilient structures. We need to think about how we're kind of building for the future. The velocity of storms, fires. We're now building as the population in the United States and Canada grows. We're moving into, say, the foothills of California more and more. So we need to think about, climate change and the effects of these events. At the same time, to build with materials that are already more resilient, like think traditional concrete or steel, is getting very expensive. So it really is taking, a material, magnesium cement, which has been used for hundreds and hundreds of years, but geographically wasn't available at economic prices here in North America, and thinking about a new way to do it. So really, and we brought up the slide that says ZES2 formula. Our team here at ZES2, so we're experienced construction people, engineering, prefab, offsite, but we also have a team of 6 chemists. So our head of R&D's PhD, multiple PhDs. So we're kind of like, the analogy I use, Dave, is we're like that small pharmaceutical company that came up with a new wonder drug. You're based in Pittsburgh, so I'm going to throw a reference back to you. So we came out of Carnegie Mellon University. So there's a local Pittsburgh
very local
there. And but now we're expanding, we're bringing our product to market, and we've also invested. Well, we just got FDA approval. Mm-hmm. And maybe I'll ask Shil to speak a little bit on all the third-party certifications and testing we've done in the US, because we now have almost 200 projects completed.
Yeah, with our testing and certification program, we have spent a lot of time and energy and capital to be able to take it to the next stage, to get it to an ICC certification. With that, throughout the process of us being able to bring our products to the market, we had to get everything certified and tested, making sure it's code compliant in certain regions, it meets specifications or exceeds. The biggest point is right now is that we're exceeding expectations compared to normal building codes to be able to provide a more robust system overall. Now, having that, be able to provide that to other contractors or generals or even architects and engineers who specify projects, that's where our future is going towards, because now everything has been certified and tested, which has been very exciting. We actually just had a group out of Puerto Rico that came by last Friday for a tour, and we're extremely excited that we're fully certified for the market with hurricanes, seismic, and fire, which they predominantly see over there, right? And to be able to provide a service or a building product that can meet or exceed their expectations there is a huge benefit to them, because they're typically working with block construction or lumber, where it's either not meeting the par or they're not being able to build it on time as the storms roll through. And so providing that as an opportunity has been really fruitful for us overall.
Yeah.
Yeah, I bet it has. Even in Puerto Rico, I mean, termites are a huge issue for everything they do. So anything that is termite resistant, I'm assuming, even though it's FDA approved, it's termite resistant as well, right?
It is. You're absolutely right. And that was actually our first project in Maui, because we mentioned the line up, the fires are there. That was, I didn't realize, but termites, California, a big issue, right? And then removing those organic building materials. Building with wood is beautiful. It's great. But in terms of the building structure, we don't, it's nice to have it maybe as the cross-laminated timber or the glue lam inside, but let's build something that's resilient to Mother Nature on the outside.
Yeah.
Yeah. Talk to me about the manufacturing of this product, right? You're doing wall panels. Are you doing the panels, or are you providing the materials to the wall panel manufacturers, or are you outsourcing the paneling and adding your cement board to it?
So why don't I start? So we're doing both. So here in Calgary, and then we have a manufacturing partnership in Mobile, Alabama. So we're manufacturing the tech board, so the magnesium cement products here, and then we integrate it with panels here and in Alabama, little prefab panels.
Let me pull that up. Hold that up.
Okay. And we started with structurally insulated panels as our kind of base market, Dave, because they're well known in construction. It's still a niche of a niche, but it's very energy efficient way to build prefab. So really what we did is we took a well-known building methodology and we just replaced the exterior cladding, whether it's OSB or potentially whether it's metal paneling, with the proprietary magnesium cement board. So that's the critical piece. So I'm a big believer in construction. We need new advancements in technology, but this is an industry that likes to do things the old way. So it's kind of incremental change. We're providing our partners with something they already understand. They understand how it's constructed. We're just changing the chemistry of the product.
Mhm.
So with the product itself, is it just wall panels or is it floor, walls, and roof?
That's a great question. So we are doing roof panels as well, and we actually have a cladding panel. So for instance, if we can't go structural in certain areas, then we can actually provide a panel that attaches to a superstructure for the outside to wrap that panel to provide a full-on thermal insulation barrier for the outside.
What is the R value of these panels?
Yeah, so ours, it depends on what you're looking for. It could start from anywhere from an R9 all the way to an R60. It just depends on the type of insulation that you need in the market that you're going to be using them in. In the Arctic, which the building that we built there, we did R70 roof package with an R60 wall package, which was kind of crazy because we did a wall panel that had lumber inside and then put a cladding panel against it for a full-on thermal resistant barrier to it.
So to give the listeners an example, this project in Cambridge Bay, Nunavut, Canada, so Nunavut territory. So if you wanted just a representation, take the North Pole where Santa Claus lives and go north. That's where it was. And it got delivered by an icebreaker.
Yeah. It was
That is awesome. So, Shill, I have to say, either you're amazingly strong and work out all the time, or that panel is all really not that heavy and very easy to maneuver, right?
Yeah, it's that's funny. I would say a standard panel. So they come in 4x8, 4x9, or 4x10 as their standard, with lumber inside of them at every 48 inches on center is our standard panel. A 4x8 panel weighs around 250 pounds distributed weight throughout the panel. So two guys can lift it and tilt it into place. But we do also have lifting slings that we put inside the panel itself to be able to provide a solution for on-site construction. If you don't have enough guys on site, then you can use a zoom boom or a crane to kind of put it into place.
Yeah, and it looks like it's already pre-routed for MEPs. Is that
Correct.
why I'm seeing that?
Yeah, so we have one vertical chase that goes in the panel here.
Yeah.
And then two horizontal at plug-in switch heights in a full-on panel itself. And then your plumbing, depending on the location that you're building in, say if you're building in the north here, then we're typically going to put plumbing on the interior of the panel itself and not run it through the exterior. But MEP does flow through it quite easily, and it's connected throughout the entire structure itself.
Through the entire structure.
Yeah.
Love it. And I'm assuming when you pour these are you pouring the wall like you pour traditional cement? So it's like a monolithic pour around the wood, or how does that work?
That's a great question. So what it is our board. So when we have it in a 4x8 sheet, it is going to be panelized and pressed here in Calgary or in Mobile, Alabama. And so what we do is take the sheathing, put a glue, and then the foam is actually cut to the specific R value that we need it to be with the MEP drilled out of it. And then we laminate the other panel on top of it. And then we recess the foam to add the lumber in and ship it out. So no pouring or anything like that on site. It's all prefab shipped to you in a truck. A typical truck, we can actually fit 5,000 square feet of panel on a truck. We max out in volume, not in weight. So that's another big benefit to some of our systems as well, where we can provide those as well. It's more like an IKEA package, but
yeah, we're shipping flat packs. So we get a lot more volume on the truck for the clients.
And we can integrate steel as well into our system as well. It just depends on what the client's needs and expectations are in each market.
Yeah, I don't know if we're going to actually get into more details on how that product is, so I can stop asking questions if you want to hop back into the presentation so I don't get out of myself. But man, I got a lot of questions.
Well, let's go with the questions. I think that's probably the best, and we haven't even touched on the recent events of 12 days ago in northern Manitoba yet.
Yeah, for sure. Well, listen, so how do you attach it then? All right. So let's say I already have my monolith, my pour, my concrete's down, or my wood flooring's down. Walk me through how the process works.
Yeah, so basically you'd have your slab that's already poured, and think about like traditional framing. You're going to put your sill plate down, and then actually you're going to frame your entire wall package and then tilt it and either Hilti it or J-bolt it into place. Where typically in our packages, we are designing everything for you in-house here. And then you're going to be laying out your sill plates by us providing you all the drawings and details before the panels even arrive. So there's going to be a cavity inside of the panel that has a recess,
Okay.
so that the panels can sit and encapsulate the plate, and then you're fastening around the perimeter of the plate itself to actually connect them together. Now, between the panels themselves, there's going to be lumber or steel protruding out 1.5 inches, and the other side has a receiving end of 1.5 inches, so that the panels can join and encapsulate the structure itself to fasten around the perimeter of the panel.
Got it. So now here, design-wise, like you said, you provide the details. So Revit files, CAD files, BIM files, whatever they are. So is this all in the cloud? Let's say a designer or manufacturer out there wants to incorporate this. They have their own engineering, their own architects or design teams, or there's an architect out there that works with factories all over the state. How do they incorporate your product into their project? Because the panel system is much different than what they're used to, especially since it has, it kind of fits together and it's already preformed from the floor all the way up the side of the walls to the roof, it sounds like.
No, great question.
Yeah. So do you want me to go?
Yeah.
So real quick, it can go both ways. So a lot of our clients, especially agriculture, more rural clients, they'll have an architect, but they'll just send us their drawings, hopefully electronically. We have got the odd napkin sketch in the past. And so our design team will integrate that, panelize the drawings, send them back for them. It'll be a Revit file. Or we can give the Revit families for all of our panelization to the architects. That's actually the way we want to go, right? When you have the architects now, so that they can integrate our solutions into their design, that makes their life much easier. It is pretty simple, right? If you think about it, the construction, as Jill explained, is really tilt-up construction, but it's customized. It's customized to their design. So they don't have to work. Now, there's certain things we can optimize and work with them to reduce material waste or potentially improve the performance of the building envelope. And we can provide, but we have the full design team here, and they can go whichever way the architect, the designer, the client, developer, owner wants.
Got it. All right, I'm gonna get back into. Let's get to work here. I'll let you guys continue with.
Maybe you could bring up the panelized housing example there, and we'll get to the next just a little bit. And this sort of helps, how are we actually doing it, right?
Yeah.
Well, so first of all, what we've been talking about on the show so far is just using better materials. So climate resilient, the Gen 2 product we've touched on a little bit. It's made in North America, North American sourcing. We haven't talked yet that CO2 is a critical input into our patented formula. CO2, we use it because it makes our product stronger, lighter, and cheaper. There's a lot of CO2 out there we get. But then it's the integration into the solutions, and that's kind of key. So this is giving some examples of some of these projects and how it's built in the factory, but to your designs, your standards for that building envelope. Arrives on site, quick, rapid construction. And for hot, humid, like as we learned with Puerto Rico, it's not so much even the storm resilience, it's that it's raining there so much, and that delays the construction as the materials get wet. Like, think about the challenges. Well, our products don't matter if it gets wet. You can continue on with the construction, so you're not being slowed down. So that helps a lot. And then really just talking about the solution and how we go through those processes. And then the team, and this is just giving some images and examples of some of these remote builds and how easy it is for us to train our partners' teams, and they can be operational really within a day.
Yeah. And I'd like to touch back on.
Yeah, I'll let you go back.
Slide.
Yeah.
6. So for our products, we aren't the builder, but we work with the builders, and just informing the builders on how to use our systems is one of the key educational pieces that we have. And we provide all of that documentation and data so that when it goes through a project lifecycle, you have a project manager and a designer on staff that is always going to be with you throughout the whole process. Our project management team are incredibly talented, and they love to make phone calls to see how the progress of the building is going and making sure that you're building to our standards and being supported all the way through. So one of the features of our organization is to provide as much support as we can so that we're actually getting our products out there correctly and being utilized in the right way. Oh, I think you're on mute.
That's awesome. You guys have a full tech team that's ready to assist and help during an entire project, is what I just heard.
You got it. Yeah. No, our team, and what's beneficial, like one thing we didn't touch on, in terms of our history going from, the hospital when we were born all the way to now. as you could probably sense, like our team has decades of construction experience. So when Zetas2 was started, which was a month before, COVID and the worldwide pandemic, we brought together groups or teams from 3 different companies that had been together forever. So we have 25 years of prefab experience from our teams working together, and then add in the true material science. So on the prefab side, we're not trying to reinvent the wheel. We're just trying to introduce the materials the world needs today for a climate that's already changed, for a growing population, with well understood building methodologies. And our team is ready to be on the standby to help any of our partners.
Got it. Walk me through Gen 1 versus Gen 2, the big difference.
Sure.
CO2 sequestering sounds like it's it.
Yeah, there is a big difference. So Gen 1 for us, much like some of the largest building products companies in the world, for us, we have a strategic partner in Southeast Asia that's manufacturing. So it's proprietary for us. Gen 2 is the made in North America solution. So that's what we're scaling up now. We are manufacturing it here in Calgary, Alberta. And there is a geographic advantage to Western Canada. So the raw material sources are very unique to where we are in Alberta, Canada right now. And so we take magnesium-rich brine water, we take magnesium oxide off-spec mine production from our partner, a company called Baymag, one of the purest suppliers of magnesium oxide in the world, a tremendous partner of ours from day zero at our company. And then that recipe likes to bind with CO2. And so that's part of our multiple patents, that process. But it's very easy for us because we don't have to take the magnesium out of the salt water, the brines, because we also want the water. That's why it's so fire resistant. So one way to think about us, Dave, for the listeners, is we've really just created a better recipe. It's almost like we run a big bakery, and we've created a better recipe, a US and a Canadian recipe that's better, uses CO2 because it makes the economics better. Someday maybe there's carbon credits and other things that are very important, but CO2 makes our product better. And that's what makes it more economical for our partners. And so the Gen 1 is transitioning to the Gen 2 right now. And that's always been the goal of the company.
How many projects have you guys done since opening your doors?
It's almost 200 now. We have some big ones that will launch, and maybe you could talk about California. I'm thinking,
we have a few, so 200 to date, but like some pretty key developments that are starting to come online. We have one in California for Habitat for Humanity that's going to be starting. They're actually digging the ground right now. We're going to be going vertical in September for 107 houses. Very cool project because with Habitat's program, they kind of provide services that you have to kind of help build their own homes as like a piece to what you're doing in that market.
For the homeowners.
For the homeowners. And what better way to do it than with panelized construction, making it easier, more with Lego block construction, but then also adding it with fire resistant materials in a high fire zone is even better. So we got the local buy-in and making sure that the Habitat organization understood the system, got excited about it, have our local distribution partner, Darren Hopkins and DH Construction over there, supporting it all and making sure that we can actually grow that market out. Now on the East Coast, we have a few big predominant projects as well in Florida, which we're doing a big house for in Miami, in Deerfield Beach for a hurricane zone in an NOA area, to where we're also working with commercial buildings in Alabama and multifamily buildings all throughout the East Coast as well.
Habitat has been becoming more and more involved in new technology and offsite construction. They have their partners in a modular manufacturing facility in Colorado right now. So that doesn't surprise me. And it's kind of fun and really interesting to see a company like Habitat that does so much good for so many people start to embrace this. It makes it should make everybody else open their eyes, because if the nonprofits are doing it, there's got to be some value to it.
That's right.
I totally agree.
Well, one of the things, Dave, with the project it's in Calaveras County, California. Shill's been down there a few times. I've had the pleasure of being down there with our partners. Is obviously it's in a high fire zone. So say a couple hours east of San Jose, the Bay Area. So it's not just about the economics of the build, the homeowners participating in the build. It's also about the ongoing expense of owning that home.
Yeah.
So if you think about building with insulated panels, prefab structurally insulated panels, that home will be much more energy efficient. So their heating and cooling bills will be a lot less. But here's the big piece. Now with the integration of ZS2 Tech Board, their insurance should be a lot less. And in some cases, just allow them to get the insurance. You know, as we learned with the Los Angeles, the Palisades fires, what we already knew here at ZS2 and the rest of the world found out is Allstate, Farmers, Nationwide, State Farm, they weren't providing insurance to a lot of people anymore. You know, we've had some great conversations with the state of California who have had to step in and have told us, yes, we've stepped in many jurisdictions, but everybody's underinsured. And so it's, you know, for those Habitat for Humanity clients, it's making sure that they're covered going forward and their costs of ownership are down.
Well, you know, and it's funny you said that about insurance, because everybody's trying to come up with a new product, which is great. But the reality of it is, in these fire prone areas or flood or hurricane areas, it's the insurance companies that are putting the boots to the builds, because they're not being built in a way that they can ensure that the house is going to be able to survive more than 10 years before the next fire or the next hurricane or the next tornado. So that makes a lot of sense that you guys are focusing on the insurance side of this as well, because that's huge.
It is. And you know, Cheryl and I were talking about this on just late last week on Friday, in, you know, speaking with our partners in Puerto Rico. It's also the insurance for the developer, the builders, for their cost of construction insurance, you know, their builders at risk insurance. You know, you think about how there's such a huge need for multifamily construction in the United States and Canada. We have a massive housing shortage throughout North America, and we're building a lot of these 4, 5, 6-story, you know, multifamily construction projects of 300, 400, 500 units. Well, they're most at risk to fire during the construction phase, before they've been sprinklered, and kind of ironically, before they're occupied, right? You know, once units are occupied, at least there's people there to pull the fire alarm. So that's actually a big challenge. So we're able to reduce those insurance costs during the build for the developers, the owners, the builders. So yeah, I'm a big believer, Shil, is to, you know, building codes are changing to hopefully, you know, strengthen what's built, but follow the money. The insurance companies, what are they doing?
Yeah, 100%. It's always follow the money, no matter what you do that's out there. So let me ask you this, right? With this product, what are the biggest conceptions you come across? So when you're out there, you know, as you know, business development person, and you're like, all right, and then what are the questions people are asking or their concerns?
I think a couple questions that they ask is this going to be more expensive than stick frame construction or typical traditional method constructions? Yes, we are premium. So you're a 5 to 7% premium in material to material costs. But I think what we've seen in our markets is that just because its material costs are higher, you're getting a better performing building, but then also the added benefit is you're reducing your costs because your building structure is going up faster. So overall, as the course of the project is actually getting built, you're reducing your timelines, but then you're also building a more not just a sustainable structure, but a robust structure overall with a faster and a shorter labor crew that can put up a structure overall.
You know, I would add to that, and it's hard to quantify this. So what Shil's saying is really a little bit of apples to oranges. Now, you know, at our predecessor company at Dirt, it was the same argument. Your labor savings and your time savings are going to more than make up for, you know, and Dirt was definitely a premium. We're just a small little material mineral, and that's changing. But it's also, how do we de-risk the project? And that's shortening the timeline. You know, we've seen it where, you know, crews, installation crews, framers, you know, what happens when they don't show up? Not that ever happens to any of your listeners. You know, you know, I'm sure that access to labor is no problem.
Just depends on when they get paid.
Yeah. So the more we can de-risk and remove that and make it easier and coming out of a factory, that's better. Obviously with the proprietary tech board.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is it, right? Offsite construction in general, people are really starting to realize that, yeah, you may pay a little bit more upfront, but you have controlled costs. You know exactly what it's going to cost you. You don't need as many laborers on site to install. You don't need skilled labor to install these panels. They need to be trained, but you can train somebody to install them. And the speed to market, you know, can be several months to 6, 8 months faster than traditional. And that's the hardest thing people have, from the developer world or the builder world. How do they quantify that? Because most people look at apples to apples and say, well, that panel is more than my 10 2x4s, right?
Yep.
You got it. That's exactly right. And I think folks are, and some of the people we've talking to, and we've been fortunate, some of the biggest building products, home builders in the United States have been speaking to us directly. We've got to spend time with them one-on-one, face-to-face. So I would say people are looking for alternatives now. People know that we need to think about things differently. And that's very helpful for us because, as you mentioned in your opening remarks, we're already doing it. We're here now. This isn't what's coming. This is today.
Right. You're not asking people to invest in developing something. It's developed, and you're asking them to invest the time and energy to learn it, understand it, and see if there's a good value.
Yeah, you got it.
Right. I love it. All right. So I have a technical question. You sitting down?
Yeah, we're sitting down.
All right. So when you take a product like the MGO boards that you guys have created, and it's perfectly square down to the millimeters, and you try and match it up with lumber, do you run into any issues there trying to get that panel perfectly square versus using LGS like gauge steel or other?
Okay, I'll let Shil touch on that, but I just want to reference that you just used the metric system. So thank you very much. We appreciate that as Canadians. So because we kind of think in feet and inches around here. But I'll let Shil talk about that.
Well, because of prefabrication, when we're actually integrating our lumber or steel packages into our assemblies, you're still using typical lumber sizes. So 2x6s, 2x8s, 2x10s. And then we're just increasing the panel depth. And as we increase the panel depth, we can actually insert the lumber into it or the steel into it to make a nice tight fit into the system itself. We also have two different kinds of adhesives that kind of bond with the panel to be able to give the panel the more rigid rigid structure. But when it comes on site, it is square. And when your wall goes together, you are nice, dead square throughout the whole wall. You're just going to shift your plumb level like you typically do in any kind of installation process to make sure that the wall is square and plumb. But if you go on one of our job sites and you see one of our walls on there and you look to the side all the way down the wall length, you're going to see a nice straight wall.
You hear that, Masons? If you're out there pouring footers in concrete, everything starts with you. So
it starts with you for sure. And so
I always say,
I agree. You have to have a concrete that is a wavy concrete, and we have to shim our panels because sometimes we've done that on a job site where we have to make sure that we're kind of working with what we have. We can do that as well. And cutting our product, you do not have to have special tools for it. You can take normal wood blade saws or carbon fiber blade saws to cut the board itself. We also do provide certain tools to recess the foam so that it's easier for the people on site to be able to use it.
Got it. So if I want to add wiring or run something, I can just cut right into it, almost like a SIPA panel.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah, you got it.
Yep, same concept. So it's kind of funny. A good dear friend of mine that passed away, Jerry McCaughey from Integra, always taught me about the Masons and calling themselves master Masons, but yet they're a half inch to an inch out of square on a building. No more. Don't accept that. Yeah, no more, because the way technology and construction is going, it causes us problems all the way up. And like you said, that's where the cost overruns come in, because now you got to spend all your time shooting lasers and shimming and getting it perfectly square and straight. So I love it. I love it. All right, so we're getting close on time here, fellas. If I want to work with you, walk me through the process, or I just want to learn. Say, hey, you know what? I'm a manufacturer. I do light gauge steel, and I want to incorporate this system into what I do. Do I have to buy it from you, or can you work with me as a partner and develop it? Or walk me through how we work together if I'm a manufacturer out there, or I want to work with you guys.
So it's really, and that's a great thing. Things are, expanding so quickly for us. We've had multiple groups come to us throughout the United States, Canada, Caribbean now, actually even overseas in the UK. And we're pretty flexible to how we work together. Our number one goal is getting our solutions out to the market and working with partners, because we think the world, there's a bit of an altruistic proposition and belief here that the world needs these materials for a whole bunch of reasons. So in terms of working, we can send our materials, whether it's the tech board, we can integrate. Now we're working on a joint development agreement with a strategic partner in terms of replacing other products they use a Portland cement formula for. So we're working on some applications there in terms of integrating our solutions into other solutions that may be manufactured elsewhere. I kind of referenced, and Shill talked a little bit about roofing, building envelopes, or maybe it's us manufacturing the panels for your building envelope, for your roof here in Calgary, down in Alabama, and supplying those to site and training your teams and working with you that way. So it really is that entire gambit of ways we can work together.
Yeah, no, and it's perfect, especially as you guys are growing. Now's a great opportunity for people to become more involved and to grow with you. And I do think there's a big future in this. And I should have touched on a little bit earlier, but the wildfires in Canada, which you mentioned, let's talk about, one of the houses. Was it a single family house or a building that was in the middle of it?
Yeah, so we wanted to bring this up. It's timely. It's sad, but it has a happy ending. So every summer it seems now we have wildfires in both the United States and Canada. They're gonna, this is gonna be something we have to live with for a long, long time. And unfortunately, they're encroaching on habited areas. So we had a fantastic project late last year, for a First Nation in northern Manitoba, Canada. It was a winter build, owing to the fact that we can get the building envelope so fast they can get to lock up. So the crews love it because they can get inside and start heating that facility. And it was for a transition center for the First Nation there. So it's for folks moving housing. So it's multi-unit residential. And unfortunately, the crews just finishing up the building with our construction partner, Seco Construction out of British Columbia, Canada. They had to be evacuated, or they're on voluntary evacuation as a wildfire approached. Well, the construction crews refused to leave. So they stayed side by side with the first responders, First Nation members, and they built fire breaks, berms, and helped them prepare until they were issued a mandatory evacuation order. Well, they returned to the job site about 8 or 9 days ago. The entire area has been burned. Wildfire raged through the entire area. The building, multifamily, looks brand new because they use wildfire-resistant tech panels for the roof and the entire building envelope, wildfire-resistant cladding where there's tin. So if you think about this building was being hit by burning embers, debris for days, high temperature, and they say there's minor smoke damage. The temperatures reading, because the windows and doors, but they didn't use a lot of windows and doors, were okay. So it didn't get above 100 degrees Celsius close to the building because they also expanded the fire breaks in a mad rush. But it's truly a testament to the benefit of the materials that facility, which is going to serve a community, like they've invested a lot in building this facility for the Women's Transition Center, and it's still there and maybe just needs minor cleanup.
Hey, that's great. They always say, the most sustainable building is one that never needs to be rebuilt.
Yeah, couldn't agree more.
Right.
So,
love it. Yeah.
So
is there anything else on that last slide deck that you wanted to show before we wrap up here?
No, I think not. I appreciate, as we've been talking today, you've been able to kind of bring open the website. So ZS2technologies.com. There's a lot of case studies there, project references. People can take a look at the products. We talk about the science. There's a lot on our team. It's a great way to reach out to us if there's some interest to learn more. We love sharing our story with folks. You already mentioned, how we can maybe work with folks throughout the United States, Canada, now Mexico, Puerto Rico, the Caribbean. Our first projects in the Bahamas are already up. Lots of places people can visit to go see projects. We think the world needs this material and this way to build, and we really appreciate you giving us the opportunity to talk about it.
I mean, listen, this is another tool in the developers and builders toolbox out there, right? Especially if you're building in high prone to disaster areas for fires and hurricanes and everything else. So gentlemen, I really appreciate you coming on. If we haven't missed anything other than thank you for what you're doing.
We appreciate you, Dave. We appreciate everything you're doing. Like we said, we've been stalking you for years. So finally we got on. This is amazing. Really, I'll leave it with one last comment. The company's name is ZS2 Technologies. It's kind of our little play on words to try to get Americans to stop saying Z and start saying Z. You mentioned, we are Canadian. We're hockey loving. We're used to building in the cold climates. Well, it turns out materials that are great in the cold climates are also really great in the warm climates.
Yes.
You got to keep the cold in, just like we want to keep the heat in, right?
You got it.
Yeah. Hey, listen, so I just want to put a couple of things up here real quick. We had a LinkedIn user. I don't have the name. Sorry, it didn't pop up. Many MGO boards and SIP-esque solution providers. What is ZS2's USP over the competition?
So the big advantage for us over the competition is the Gen 2 is the first ever in the world manufactured magnesium products here in North America. That it's now being tested, certified, make sure we get it so the building inspectors have complete confidence, the insurance agencies, but it's also less expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Less expensive. That's what everybody wants to hear. So, I mean, imagine that. You can get something less expensive, better quality, more resilient, more sustainable, sequester CO2, and it saves you money. I love it.
Yeah.
This is what it's all about. All right, we got Greg Ugaldi here as well. I don't know if you guys know Greg. Greg is the past chair of the National Association of Home Builders, updates the President of the United States several times a year, as well as Secretary of Housing. And he says, DC Live, another cutting-edge product. What does ZS2 actually stand for? Great job describing the products.
Okay, well, thanks very much, Greg. Appreciate that. You know what? Dave's done, being on the show is great. We're going to share kind of the secret here. So ZS2, zeolite, sulfur, our corporate logo looks like an element, right? So it's chemistry. Chemistry is at the heart of everything we do. We are a material science company in prefab construction. But here's the truth. It was COVID. My children, who Shill knows, this is our third coming together, our team, Kristen Davis, our co-founder. My children came to me when we started the company and said, Dad, I have a name for your new company. Well, what is it, son? My oldest son. My oldest son's name is Zachary. There's a little foreshadowing there. He says, Dad, I think you should call your company ZS3. Well, why ZS3, Zach? Well, I'm Zach. You got to name it after me. My brother's name is Sam. That's an S. Your name is Scott. That's an S. And Mom's name is Sarah. So there's 3 S's and a Z. So I thought about it. Yeah. Next day, I talked to Shill, talked to Kristen Davis, talked to our team, and I said, Zach wants us to call the company ZS3. And I said, but we're not. We're going to call it ZS2. And they said, well, we love it, but why ZS2? We like ZS3. I said, no, take my name out of it. It'll be our reminder of who we work for and what is truly important to us. And it's the families that we're protecting, we're building a great company for. Mm-hmm. So that's why we called it ZS2. So it's our little kind of subtle reminder about what's truly important in life.
I love it. I love it. You know what? Sometimes it's the little minds that have the greatest ideas.
Yeah, he was 8.
He's
a little bigger now. He was 8.
He ain't that much bigger then. Hasn't been around that long. But good for him. I have a 9-year-old, so I know that world. So awesome, guys. Listen, appreciate you being on the show. Don't go anywhere. I'm gonna come back to both of you after the outro. Hey, and for the rest of you out there, if you want to support us and you want to see us come to your factory or showcase other guests like we've had on the show today, why don't you talk to us about being a supporting member? All of this is live. It's unedited. And as you heard from these two, it's invite only on this show. It's not a pay to play. So we'd love to have you. So a big shout out to all of our supporting members. We really do appreciate all of you out there. And the other side of it is it's Monday. You still got 4.5 days to keep building it better. So what are you waiting for? Pick up the phone and call ZS2 Technologies and learn about their products. And if you're a manufacturer and you need an introduction, or you're just anybody out there and want an introduction, feel free to reach out to us as well, or hit them up on LinkedIn, YouTube, or where are you guys at? What's the best way to get you? LinkedIn?
LinkedIn's great. ZS2 Technologies.
Go to the contact. Yeah.
Yeah. X, YouTube. Our YouTube channel has a lot of project examples, but all of the above. Yeah.
Love it. Love it. All right. Don't go anywhere, YouTube. But for the rest of you out there, thank you so much for watching today. This has been a great show. My name is Dave Cooper. Dave Cooper Live. Have a wonderful rest of your week. We'll see you on Wednesday. Bye now. CombiLift is the largest global manufacturer.